All right, guys, before we get into just talking about the watch, I had to show you the box, right? Because it's a special box, and it's got this thing down here with a little nod to the history of the Seiko divers, which is where this one is playing its design from. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, let's check out. I guess I should probably take it apart too, because this, this whole panel thing comes out and it's all gloss and it's like transparent on the total bottom of it here, and then it has these little foamies, so that's how it could display, is just like that. And then in the bottom of the main box here, there's a little panel here, and then that is where your warranty card is and your operation manual there. So in case you were looking for that, that's where that is. All right, guys, we get to check out the limited edition SLA043. Big thanks to my friends over at Lucido. I'll put a link to their website in the description. You're going to want to call them up and check out what other watches they have. They have a ton of awesome Seiko and some other brands, but we're going to talk about this one. So, of course, this is the SLA043, retail price of $4,500 using the caliber 8L35. So let's just get right into this, guys. I started off showing you the box a little bit, so let's talk about the watch. You are looking at a 39.9 millimeter watch case wide. The lug to lug, I measure 47.8. You can see a signed Seiko signed screw down crown. So a 47.8 lug to lug. Thickness 14.1, slightly boxed and double domed sapphire crystal with AR coating on the underside. 19 millimeter lug width and a 7 millimeter crown. In this configuration, it weighs in at 112 grams. Those sizes are more true to the original 62 MAS. So, it's a 1965 diver. Why the heck is it called a 62 MAS? Well, the original movement in that 1965 diver was a 6217 movement. So they took the 62 from the beginning of that. Now the MAS, this is weird. I don't understand who picked up MAS from it, but it's they're using some letters from the words automatic, self-dater. So they took the MA from automatic and they took the S from self-dater and they called it a 62 MAS. I don't know who came up with that. I don't really care. It's kind of cool. I would have been just fine not learning where all that information came from, but I was curious, so I figured it out. The 8L35 movement that is in this is what makes, well, one of the things that make this watch so special. That movement is kind of like a scaled down or a smaller mainspring, I think, for the power. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's based off the Grand Seiko 9S55 movement. But they don't need the larger mainspring and some other components that the 9S needed to drive a larger handset. Most of the watches that you're going to see the 8L35 in are going to be smaller and they're going to have a little bit shorter handsets, so they don't need that crazy power. It is a 50-hour power reserve movement. It is beating at 4 hertz or 28,800 beats vibrations per hour. As you can see, a cleaner sweep of the second hand on this versus, say, what you see on like a 6R movement, which I'll show you that one in the background next to this one in a little bit. And these are limited to 1,700 pieces. This happens to be number 322. So if we flip this over, you can take a look at the case back. I'm not going to take that blue sticker off. This is not my watch. It's brand new. It is owned by Lucido, and it is for sale. So there is the numbered. I mean, that's a proper way to do a limited edition. This is number 322 of 1,700, made in Japan, and there you go. And if we take a look at the dial here and the case, you'll see a beautiful, I believe, applied indices. I don't think this is a press dial. I could be wrong, but I believe this is applied. And then you also have a framed out, beautifully framed out date window at 3 o'clock. And the date wheel is actually silver with black printing. And then, of course, you have that powder blue second hand. And then you have that beautifully finished brush down the center with the loom, and then on the hands, and then polished on the sides, chamfered down. So excellent light play on this thing. And then you have that beautiful coin edge bezel. And then I believe that's a ceramic. Yeah, that's a ceramic bezel insert on that guy. And check out the case finishing on this. Now I want to talk about the case a little bit, because Seiko is now using on this watch, and they're probably going to use it on some more of their higher end stuff, what they're calling the Ever Brilliant Steel. This is not 316L and it's not 904. It's something totally different. It's not proprietary to Seiko. They do say in their information they provide that it is used in the marine world, and it is mostly known for its anti-corrosive properties. But look how beautiful and bright it looks. Hopefully you've watched some of my other videos, so you're kind of used to my lighting conditions and the way watches look. This one looks brighter. It's not quite as bright as, like, say, the Tudor Black Bay 58 Silver that I've handled, but this is brighter than 316 and maybe even 904. I have my sub over here, and I'll show those all next to it. But beautiful, deep finishing on this, fully brushed. And then, of course, you have polished on the horns here, below the inside there where the strap attaches, and then the crown. But most of it's brushed. And then you have some polished on the underbelly. A little bit on the thicker side for this guy, but part of that is the boxed and domed sapphire crystal. If you look at the mid case, that's actually nice and thin. And then with the way they broke it up with dimensions there, it kind of makes the watch look a little bit thinner anyway. 120 click bezel. Wow, that is actually, it's still Seiko, right? But it feels refined Seiko. Like, I wouldn't want a Seiko dive bezel to not feel like a Seiko dive bezel, right? So it's just that, but like cleaner and crisper. So the original 1965 diver actually was mostly noted that it could do 150 meter water depth rating. This one, of course, is 200 because why the heck not? But you know what I just noticed on the dial here? I'm just now picking that up. It says divers 200 meter, and then they actually put DiaShock 26 joules on the dial instead of doing like Prospex or any other thing. I mean, they could have put so many other silly things on there. It's actually kind of cool that they did the a little bit of information regarding the movement. So that's pretty cool. And a beautiful, deep, rich blue on there. And then I was kind of surprised that they did that splash of powder blue, because there's no powder blue anywhere else. So if I'm being nitpicky, I'm actually not 100% sold on the powder blue secondhand. I think a nice regular blue one would have been fine, or a polished one, or to match the rest of the handset. But that's just me being nitpicky, guys. I'm sure there's tons of people out there that absolutely love that. So also comes with a blue strap, which really helps pull the blue out in the dial, I think. And it's nice. They're really nice straps. The hole here for the spring bar is actually lined with metal, so it's going to last forever. These straps are going to last forever. And then they have a metal keeper, and then really nice polished hardware, a little bit of brushing on there too. So let me pop this on wrist real quick. Let's get that out of the way, and then I'll show it side by side with the, I guess we're going to call it the 63 MAS or something, because it's definitely not a 62. Totally different dimensions and everything. Here it is on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. And this is how you're going to want to wear it, this strap. I mean, because 19 mil, I mean, you might be able to fit some other straps in there, but honestly, I think these straps, once they get broken in a little bit, which, well, it might take a little while, because it is a really nice high-grade silicone or rubber or something. So as I'm flipping this stuff around, I looked up real quick because I thought I read somewhere that Seiko was recommending a service on this movement every 3 years. I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, I'm not a watchmaker, so I mean, definitely confide in your watchmaker or someone that's actually professional. I tend to not fix things when it comes to watches until they're absolutely needing it. So I went on the Seiko website, and hopefully I can put the link in the description. I looked up how much a estimated service from Seiko is for this movement, $397. Oh, and 50 cents for the 8L. So then I was like, well, how much is it for like a 4R36? $153.51. So a lot of money to service this movement. So I don't know. That's pretty crazy. I don't know what another watchmaker would charge or what would need to be done to it. Or hopefully you can go a much longer interval. The accuracy on this movement is rated at +15 to -10 per day. So I think you'll probably get pretty close to that. Here it is next to the 63 MAS, I guess. You can see the size there. They're definitely larger. This guy here is like 40.5 versus this only being like 40. And then the lug to lug is actually almost identical. They're just a little bit off. But you can really see the difference in the metal and the finishing. How much brighter the ever brilliant steel is next to it. Hopefully you can pick that up. Now, of course, this one here is going to have that proprietary dye shield or whatever coating on it, so that turns it a little bit yellow. But check this out. I'm going to put it next to the sub, the 904L steel, and it's actually even brighter than that. I mean, you can, hopefully you guys can see that. I can see it for sure. Now that's not fair because that's a polished side, but if you look at the top of the lugs there, you can see that the Seiko is a brighter steel. Like I said, it's borderline getting to the point where it's almost as bright as, not quite, but it's almost as bright as I remember seeing that Tudor Black Bay silver, which is crazy bright looking. So the ever brilliant steel is actually pretty cool. Now, I know I went long on this, so I want to cover one other thing because I know I'm going to hear this in the comments and I've already heard it from other people. $4,500. It's a lot of money. So I thought about this today. Who buys this watch? I think there's quite a few different scenarios where people buy this watch. I can tell you who doesn't buy it. The people that go, $4,500 is ridiculous for that watch. That's who doesn't buy it. Who does buy it? I think people that are like, they've went way up. They're way higher up in their watch journey, meaning that they have like much more expensive watches. You know, at least like, you know, some higher end luxury divers and stuff like that. And I think it's easier for them to go back down and justify the values on the more affordable watches, because that's how this is going to be considered from those tiers. And I know this for a fact. I've talked to people that they didn't start from like the bottom up. They kind of started higher and they're way higher. The other people that I think are going to buy these are, you know, this is like grail watch for like the Seiko lover collector. And, you know, they want the MM300 or the maybe a Grand Seiko diver, or honestly, I would go after one of these, this one or the Willard, before I'd go after a Grand Seiko diver, but that's just me. And yeah, $4,500 is a lot of money. But if history has shown us anything, they actually do pretty good with holding their value too. So, and really, I think when you're buying expensive Seikos, you might want to be the end user on it. Maybe don't worry about the resale on it, because there's a chance that it's not going to be great. But there's a possibility, if you do research, that certain models will actually do very well. All right, let's kill the lights and check the lume on this. So in the comments down below, you know, help yourself. You can say $4,500 is a lot. You can say this 63 is a lot at $1,200. But it definitely makes the $1,200 one seem like a heck of a value when you put it next to this 45, and then vice versa. Maybe this 4,500 one seems like a heck of a value when it put it next to a $8,000 watch that, I mean, you can't even buy anyway. So it goes deeper than just saying that $4,500 is a lot of money for this watch. It's deeper than that, guys. All right, thanks for watching. Big thanks to Lucido for letting me check this out. I'll see you on the next vid.